How is defense attorney Jose Baez going to back up those shocking claims that he made in his opening statement? Claims that Casey was brought up to lie and allegations of sexual abuse by her own father. Back with me, Mark Nijem, attorney for Tim Miller and Texas Equisearch. Also, he's George and Cindy Anthony's former attorney. Fran Sherman with me, a licensed psychotherapist here in Orlando. Great to see you. And Casey Jordan, contributor for In Session on True TV, criminologist and analyst. Thank you all so much. Fran, let me start with you. We're getting ready for this defense case, and the way I see this defense case, at the core of it all, is the family dynamic.
Right.
A father, and I'm talking about the defense case. I'm not saying what I believe here, but a father who's been abusing this little girl since the age of 8. A little girl who has been tormented and deals with trauma by creating a false reality, lying, and completely ignoring the trauma in her life. An overbearing mother who doesn't believe she's a good mother, who doesn't believe her daughter's a good mother, and wants to take care of little Kaylee, her granddaughter. And a tragic accident happens, and because when trauma happens, this is how Casey reacts. She's scared of her father, who's there at the time, afraid that her father's going to tell her mother, and her mother will never forgive her. That's the core of the defense.
Right.
How do we sift through this to uncover the truth? Because that's why everyone's in court right now.
Right.
To try to figure out what the truth is here.
Right.
How do we peel back those layers? How do we tell who's telling the truth, who's lying here?
You know, it's really hard because there certainly is a family filled with lots of lies, and the bottom line is, I can say as a therapist, regardless of whether or not Casey was abused by her father, that would not cause her to be a murderer. So I want to be really, really clear about that.
That doesn't cause her to be a murderer. They're saying it explains the way she reacts to trauma. They're saying accidental drowning. She doesn't want to deal with it. She ignores it, so she just goes on living her life.
And I think some of that...
Could trauma cause you to react that way?
You know, yes. There are trauma of many kinds in childhood can cause people to have certain personality disorders, including borderline personality disorder, which I believe, and again, I have not examined Casey, but I believe that's what...
the door to the possibilities here.
Right, that's what she is. I believe that she's a borderline. Borderline people lie, lie, lie. They ignore the reality. It's only their reality. Life is all about her, and I think we really saw that when her...
Would you suppress an accident, though? Would you never tell anyone that your daughter accidentally drowned, even though they're calling you a murderer, even though the state wants to put you to death for it, and you have a witness? You would never tell anyone? Well, you know, maybe your lawyer?
You know, I don't believe that that's so. That's my professional belief. I don't believe it's so. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But Casey's life is built on lies. Casey comes from a family that appears to have had lots of fragments and been very dysfunctional, regardless of whether or not there was abuse. Does she lie about everything? Yes. So anything she says, whether she's put on the stand and if she's put on the stand,
you gotta take it with a huge.
Right.
I mean, a grain of salt so big you couldn't fit it in the studio here.
Right. So she lies.
Mark, let's talk about the defense. You know, it's an offensive defense in that they're out there attacking, going after people like a Roy Kronk, that this meter reader is picking up remains and scattering them everywhere, holding on to them for 4 months, and they're going to attack George Anthony.
Yeah, they're going to cause chaos and confusion. But to get back, they don't have a mental health expert on their witness list. They don't have a psychiatrist on their witness list. They don't have any professional to corroborate this. Why? With the hundreds of therapists in Central Florida alone, the thousands within the state, and the tens of thousands within the nation, they couldn't find one that they would put in this case to save a woman's life if this was a true story. Why don't they have one? Because it's not a true story.
Casey Jordan, yesterday, and we get back to the family dynamics here, yesterday in court, and I'm going to show you some video. A lot of people noticed when Cindy Anthony, Casey's mom, got off the stand, it appears that she mouths, "I love you," to her daughter Casey. Take a look here. It's in slow motion. It's up for interpretation. Many believe it. Many people believe that there was very little, if any, reaction from Casey Anthony. What do you think's going on here, Casey Jordan, in between? It seems to me Cindy obviously doesn't want her daughter put to death. Do you think, though, that she believes that her daughter could possibly be responsible for this?
I think Cindy Anthony is worthy of our sympathy, truly, because she has been on a complete roller coaster ride for 3 years as of today. And she has been up and down. She has stood by her daughter. She has denied. She has actually probably, codependently enabled her daughter to lie. And she feels great regret, I think. I think that she has come full circle. I think 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago, when they found out what the defense strategy was going to be, the so-called let's throw George under the bus. And remember, she tried to go and see Casey on the eve of the trial, and Casey refused to see her, which I understand considering it would have been taped. At the same time, Cindy is a mother, and I truly believe this, who will never stop loving her daughter. Even if her daughter killed her granddaughter, she's going to compartmentalize that and remember that Casey is her daughter. And even if she goes to prison, even if she's given the death penalty, she wants her daughter to know this and that she had to get on the stand and tell the truth. I think that's what you saw yesterday. I think she did mouth, "I love you," and I think Casey raised her eyes and turned her face away in contempt. And Cindy has to deal with that as well.
Now I want to talk about Casey and George Anthony. Fran, take a look at this. And this was one of those jailhouse interviews that was recorded. Remember, the allegation here by Jose Baez and Casey Anthony is that George Anthony has sexually abused Casey since she was 8 years old. Take a listen to this exchange.
Maybe we've all been too domineering. Maybe we didn't let you be the best mom.
Dad, it's
you are a
nobody's
great
fault.
mom.
It's nobody's fault.
Well, I just wish I could have opened more up to you, and I wish I could have done stuff, but I can't go back.
No,
There's
all we
times
could
I
do
know
is move
there's
on,
times
Dad.
I know you wanted to talk to me. I wish I would have listened.
And you are the best father. And by far the best grandfather that I've ever met. I'm gonna say that, and I mean that with all my heart.
I know we know that she's a liar, but how about there, friend? That interaction between father and daughter, is it potentially consistent with a father and daughter who have this alleged relationship where dad's been sexually abusing her since she was 8 years old?
You know, it's interesting because kids that are abused always want the love from their parents, and people that are abusers always deny the abuse. So that interaction can certainly happen from people who have been abusive or have been abused.
So it's not necessarily inconsistent.
No.
Because on his face, you look at it, you're the best dad, the best grandfather, but you're saying it's not. And I believe you, because I've heard that from some other folks. Now.
This is one of the main reasons that I chose Dad, is because he won't sit there and keep asking me the same questions 500 times over like you and Lee have done. I want to see each and every one of you, but at least with Dad, and honestly, the true main reason that I want to see him is because him and I have had a broken relationship for such a long time. And we were just finally starting to talk. The day that this unfolded, the day that I was brought here.
That jailhouse video is from August 3rd, 2008, when George Anthony visits his daughter Casey in jail. Fascinating family dynamics in this case, and they go to the heart of the defense. And the defense case starts tomorrow morning. That's why we're talking about this tonight. Because remember, their whole allegation is that George Anthony is there when Kaylee dies and actually discovers her lifeless body in the pool. And they also say George Anthony has been raping Casey since she was 8 years old. I want to show you a picture, because the other part of this story is what this trial and this story and this case and this tragedy has done to George and Cindy Anthony. That's George Anthony up in the courthouse, outside the ladies' room. You notice that's the ladies' room? Inside the ladies' room is his wife, Cindy, and she is crying so loudly that people can hear her outside in the hallway there. And there's George taking a moment, praying. Fran Sherman still with us. Fran, the impact that all this has had and the toll it has taken on these two grandparents is beyond anything anyone should have to deal with, and beyond anything I think any of us could imagine to be in the spot that they're in.
You know, it's horrible. You know, I'm a parent. I know lots of us are parents. And regardless of what our child has done, you always love them. You love them no matter what. You might not like their behavior, but you love them. So they have lost their precious grandchild, their adoring grandchild, horribly, and now they're potentially going to lose their daughter. And it's just beyond words. It's really they're beside themselves. And
George and Cindy, though, have been there for each other inside the courtroom. I want you to take a listen to CNN correspondent Gary Tuckman, also appears on AC 360 every night, who's been covering this story. He shared an elevator ride with George and Cindy Anthony today from the 23rd floor down to the ground floor. Take a listen to what he observed.
And first of all, I said to them, I'm sorry for what you're going through. This must just be a horrible situation. And they said, thank you. And then when they were in the elevator, they held each other and cried in each other's arms for the entire 23 floors. Cindy's head was in George's chest. Why it was important to see that is because if you believe that Cindy believes that George possibly had sexual relations with their daughter, she wouldn't be hugging him, crying with him, and looking for his support. They love each other very much. I could tell that on the elevator.
Here's my question to you, Fran. Is it possible for them to be there for each other, and especially Cindy to be there for George, if Cindy believes that George was there when Kaylee drowned? If Cindy believes that George disposed of their granddaughter and tossed her into the woods like garbage so she would decompose and be eaten by animals.
right.
And on top of that, her husband, Cindy's husband, has been raping her daughter since she was 8. Can she believe all of that and still be in his arms?
No, I don't believe that she really believes all of that. And if she had believed any of it on some level, she certainly denies any truth to that. And especially they're all they've got right now. But no, I don't believe that she really believes that about her husband at all. And certainly not that he disposed of Kaylee, because that would be beyond reproach. I mean, it's all awful.
Casey Jordan, how does the jury read that? If all these allegations are made, and yet the jury sees each and every day inside that courtroom George and Cindy Anthony with each other, together, working their way through the most difficult thing that any family can ever go through. But they see them there together. Do you think that the jury's going to be thinking the same thing that I'm thinking? My goodness, there's no way that Cindy believes any of this.
I absolutely agree with you, Vinnie. I think that's what the jury believes. And I think that they have pondered the possibility that if Cindy were in such complete denial, if George really did molest their daughter, Casey, if George really was party to covering up an accidental drowning, Cindy, who knows these people extremely well, it's her daughter and her husband, would she get on the stand and tell the truth in that clear, convincing way, breaking down, sobbing? She is perhaps the most believable witness we have seen on the stand. I think that I think that if she were in denial, the jury would expect her to get up there and be hostile and say, no, it wasn't a dead body smell, it was a garbage smell, because they would want to see her denial on the stand to corroborate denial of the defense's theory. We see Cindy as somebody credible, agonizing, loving her daughter, but telling the truth, letting the chips fall where they may. And I think that this is really going to be a backlash for the defense. Cindy and George are not helping the defense at all.
Yeah, they've been some of the strongest witnesses for the prosecution. You know, they're in the middle of all this, and the way they testified, which was consistent with prior statements that they made, that were recorded, videotaped, written down by police officers. What an unenviable position that they're in.